Running commentary. We are exploring listening to albums. It is a lost art form. Howard Jones, Humans Live. The debut album from Howard Jones, who hails from the market town of High Wycombe in Buckinghamshire. Rupert Hine produced the album Humans Live, with the exception of New Song, which was produced by Duran Duran's Colin Thurston. I feel huge influence from Ultravox and OMD on this album. Howard Jones is a Pisces. This is just something I'm putting out there because the nature of Howard Jones's work is very visceral. When I think of Howard Jones again, he's one of these artists that slides more into the male category for me. I don't really care if women like Howard Jones or not. I feel like he's ours. He's one of us. He's one of the guys. And he talks about things that, again, were really brave. What is love? It's very typical that this song really, I think, had the most impact of Howard Jones' career as this late 83 hit. Terror Hawks is on the TV. Zelda's about to drop one of her bombs into the opposing universe. And What is Love comes on. It's this big number 2 smash. The lyrics to Howard Jones stuff, it's very ahead of its time in this kind of new age sensibility, this idea of giving everything its perspective and being universal. This is one of the first albums where you hear these kind of messages of sort of karmic consequence and things of that nature. The idea that what goes around comes around is very sort of prevalent in Howard Jones' material. I think What is Love is a fantastic pop single. I think it's relevant. I think it's a great question to ask. What is Love is a huge record. And I will say that the 12-inch version of this record, 12 inches in the 80s could be make or break for a record. I don't think anything's added by the 12-inch version of What is Love here. But I think as a single, it's definitely one of his strongest pieces, and I think it gave him the basis to continue at least another year and a half, 2 years with singles as a result of the strength of that song. Not forgetting New Song, of course, which is Don't Crack Up, Bend Your Brain, See Both Sides, Throw Off Your Mental Chains, woo-hoo-hoo. Just absolutely brilliant. My favorite record, probably one of my favorite records from 1983. There's just something so optimistic and upbeat, and the synth and the beat and everything about New Song as this Colin Thurston produced smash. This is why British pop, Howard Jones, is, to me, the example of if you've got a great song, nothing else really matters. I can't think of anything about Howard Jones that really sets him apart for me as a performer. But the music just goes so far above and ahead of him that I don't really need him to be a great performer if the songs are fantastic. I'm not saying he's not a good performer. He's one of the most skilled synthesizer people I know. But the work is just so much bigger than he is. It doesn't even matter who's singing this song. The surprise for me comes when Hide and Seek as the third single doesn't really do the business, because it, to me, is one of my favourite songs of all time, and certainly from Howard Jones, I think it may be my favourite song. And he's being very politically correct when he suggests that God, as a female, completely forgets where she hides herself in this game of hide and seek in creating the world. And this whole concept of God coming back is God actually can't find themselves because they're hiding and seeking with all of us. I'll never forget that my music teacher, Alison Troll, came into me on a music lesson, all excited. We were probably working another day on ABBA's Name of the Game, which for anyone who's tried playing ABBA's Name of the Game on piano is not a fun time. Came back all excited because Howard Jones had been in Oxford promoting synth equipment. That was the kind of dude that he was. The synth companies would go to Howard Jones to promote the Roland synthesizers. He was the poster boy for this stuff. A Pearl in the Shell is the roar of brass. It's the daring inquisitive of the synth hook. You tell me what the song's about. I haven't got a clue what this song is about. but it's got me by the short and curlies. Howard Jones is definitely putting himself here with the Earth, Wind and Fire crowd. He wants you to know that he likes Earth, Wind and Fire with this song. I could not love its cerebral sensibility more. I love Pearl in the Shell. I love it. I sing it. I love the brass. I just love that he gives space to all the instruments, and, you know, he is in his own world, and you visit him in his home. And he's not really interested. Again, these are my favorite groups. They're the ones that are not really caring what you think about what they're doing. They're just getting on and doing it. They're not kind of pandering and tailoring it to you and saying, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? Because then the audience would really like that. Howard Jones really, I don't think he really gives a fuck what any of us think. I really don't. And I love him for it. Conditioning is the opening track. It's fine. It's very, you know, it's a good point. It's just the song, Conditioning, the way we are conditioned to act as humans. And remember, the album's called Human's Lib. Sometimes I'd like to sleep with 100 women or men. Outrageous statement. I mean, Howard, you'd be lucky to find 100 men or women that would sleep with you. But Conditioning, Human's Lib, there are such strong messages on this album. And The Vessel is, you know, imagine if Duran Duran made this album, maybe we'd be living in a different society. But as it was, Howard Jones made it, and therefore about 12 of us in the whole world actually listened to what he was saying. I think Howard Jones was singularly responsible for making the misunderstood boy belong somewhere. He kind of, that little kid that no one understood and was like a little weird and awkward, Howard Jones was saying, yeah, that person exists and I'm in a representation of that. He gave us strange or slightly different boys somewhere to go and be and feel cool about. No one really attacked you for being a Howard Jones fan. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. I would say that the early 80s were more primitive, and he was able to build on synthesizer technology and take probably what bands like OMD and Ultravox were hoping to do, and really build on that. Don't Always Look at the Rain is, you know, hide and seek territory. There's these great key change. There's the meaningful synth. There's the just right piano interlude. The songwriting on this album is really something to celebrate. Hump the Self, I was able to ignore. It really didn't really resonate with me that well. I was told by a person that lived in New York that Howard Jones was somebody that was regularly featured on the LIR pirate radio station as Screamer of the Week. I think both New Song and What Is Love made that category. I know that Paul Young, Come Back and Stay. And so much of the American absorption of British acts happened through these pirate radio stations. And these guys were docked out in Long Island and made a big difference to the pop community at that time. There'll always be someone better. There'll always be someone worse, which is, you know, Human's Lib, the album track. I love the slow down. Also on New Song, I also want to talk about my brother, because the reason I love New Song so much is that it reminds me of my brother being in the car seat, in the back seat of our car when he was 2 years old, going woo hoo hoo, like he'd always sing that part of the Howard Jones song. I love the song with every fiber of my being because of how it connects me and my brother. And he would always, by the way, just to show you, would immediately after we would sing the song, he would used to hand me his milk bottle to give me a little sup, just in case I needed for refreshments to go back into the vocals. So that was always something that I really loved about that. I wish that Howard Jones would have made more dance records, you know, when there was that period, that late 80s thing. I think Howard Jones could quite easily have jumped on that bandwagon and scored himself some more top 10 records, because he really knew what he was doing. I'm surprised that he wasn't taken up on that. You know, there are production surprises on this album. I love the meowing synth that Howard uses to open Natural. His songwriting is abound here, imparting personal words of wisdom. He splashed onto the scene in September 1983, and again, the soundtrack to my first year in Comprehensive, as I know it was with some of you. Human's Lib should have been released as a single, really. I think it would have Like to Get to Know You Well, I could probably have done without. I was not a fan of Like to Get to Know You Well. I just don't think it was that good. I think Humans Live would have made a great full single. I think after Pearl in the Shell, Humans Live would have worked as another top 10 record. I mean, Like to Get to Know You Well was a number 4, and it was a big hit for Howard, just not one of my favorite tracks of his, and it's not on the album, so, and I'm pleased about that. And the reason I like it so much is because it pays rapt homage to Ultravox's Vienna. It shadows it in its gravity. China Girl is the big disappointment. It's the last, it's not called China Girl, but it sounds like China Girl by David Bowie. It's called China Dance. It's got the China Girl style synth. It's a mistake. It's the last track on the album, and it made me think of Bowie, and it siphons away from Howard Jones' otherwise memorable originality. It's a terrible way to end a magnificent album, but in final summation of listening to Howard Jones' Humans Live and his selfless expression of some really, what I think are real nuggets of advice on how to live life and get more out of life, and sort of more of this kind of cerebral, and this is music to be listened to. You know, I don't need to go and see Howard Jones in concert. I can listen to him here and absolutely get the essence of who he is. The final score is 94%. Anyone who thinks they know his work should go back. There's way more to him than just the hit singles. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, recommend it to friends, post comments. Also, if you have an album that you'd like to hear reviewed, we welcome your requests.